Well, let's get now more on the BP situation, the impact of the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, which started, of course, with an explosion on April the 20th. It's still dominating the headlines here and in the United States. But what impact is it likely to have on the image of British business in America? Let's speak to Alison Stewart-Allen, author of the book Working with Americans, who helps European firms do business in the USA. Thank you for joining us. How damaging is this, do you think, to British business?
Well, it's not damaging yet, but it has that potential, and it's a very real potential. The reason now for that potential is a function of British Airways, with the strike action that is disrupting some American travelers. British Petroleum, as it's being called, despite the fact that the brand name is no longer British Petroleum but BP. And so the risk is therefore that other British brands that want to continue in America successfully, as most of them already are, and those that want to enter the U.S. market might be concerned that Americans think that British companies may not be very au fait with how American business works.
OK, I mean, the US has just said that the dispute between BP and the White House is not a source of diplomatic tension between the two countries. Do you think they're rowing back a bit? I mean, do you think they feel they might have overstepped the mark?
Well, I think this is a very emotional issue, especially in the Gulf states, because Hurricane Katrina's effects are still being felt. You still have businesses being rebuilt and homes being rebuilt. So that part of the country is still very raw on the back of that unfortunate incident. And now they have yet another catastrophe on their hands to deal with. So
does America, though, like I suppose any other country, want a fall guy in a situation like this? Or is there some praise for Tony Hayward, that he's stuck his head above the parapet? He's gone there, he said he was going to confront this issue, he does all the interviews. OK, he might have put his foot in it a few times, but he's taking the rap, isn't he?
Well, he's certainly trying to fix the problem, but I think what's really wound up Americans, especially in that region, is his manner and his approach and his lack of empathy. And, you know, empathy goes a very long way, especially in American business and in the American culture. And so the fact he's not demonstrating enough of that is the same affliction with Akio Toyoda back in February, March of this year. He similarly didn't know how to get behind the mindset of the Americans and get his messages across in a way that resonates.
But couldn't that be said for the great communicator himself, President Obama? I mean, he still hasn't... He's meeting tonight the victims of the actual disaster 6 or 7 weeks ago, which seems an awfully long time. He hasn't had face-to-face meetings with Tony Hayward yet, and he's concerned about the backlash to the fact that he's only been 3 or 4 times now to the actual site itself.
Absolutely true. And you could maybe say that part of the reason he's turned the heat up on BP is to try to, win some favor in that part of the country from people who think that he's not communicating very well either. So, you know, in a way, BP may be partly in the wrong place at the wrong time, but they certainly have a major environmental disaster on their hands, and no one can dispute that. What people should be doing at BP is learning how to understand and communicate their messages properly, and maybe consider putting a different voice in front of Americans that has the right accent and the right cultural understanding.
Well, that might mean an American accent.
Well, there is an American accent there. I mean, they've put forward the gentleman who runs BP America, and he increasingly is becoming the spokesperson for BP in the U.S., and actually I think that's a very smart move.
OK, Alison Stewart-Allen, author of the book Working with Americans, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's go back to Soweto.